Hello, and welcome to the You Know You Deserve More podcast spotlight interview series. I am your host, Stephanie Puryear-Helling, and founder of SPH Services, leading people and teams to success. I am a transformational leadership coach, speaker, and consultant, and I am so excited to have my special guest and friend here with me today, Angi Pusateri Downey. Before we jump in, hi, Angi. Before we jump in with our questions, we're going to talk about transformational leadership, leading change, and building resilient teams, as well as personal resiliency. But before we jump in, I want to tell you a little bit more about this incredible woman. So some of you listeners, whether you're catching this live or catching the replay, know Angi very well because she has been a pillar in the multifamily real estate and residential property management industry. But for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting or knowing Angi, I want to tell you about this incredible person. So Angi is a trailblazer in the rental housing industry for over 30 years. Her impressive career is underscored by her service as chair of the National Apartment Association's NSC, as a driver of the Residential Property Management RPM Careers Committee, and leadership on countless other association committees and endeavors. Angi is the National Strategic Account Manager for CORT and was awarded the prestigious National Apartment Association Lifetime Achievement Award in November of 2024. This honor recognizes Angi's exceptional dedication, service, and unwavering commitment to the rental housing industry and her substantial contributions to the National Apartment Association. The NAA Lifetime Achievement Award celebrates supplier partners and association executives who exemplify outstanding dedication to the rental housing industry. A prominent advocate for industry issues and in promoting the industry giving back, Angi never shies away from a challenge and does it all with professionalism and class, says former NAA Chair of the Board, Rhonda Puryear, my cousin. She is an inclusive leader who has a passion for the rental housing industry and shows it at every turn. So these are just some highlights that scratch the surface about this incredible human being. And a fun little fact, Angi and I worked together at the same company, Greystar, many, many moons ago. And she was an instrumental person in my career then. And I've been so fortunate to continue to stay connected and work with Angi on a national level through our volunteer leadership at the National Apartment Association. So without further ado, Angi, welcome. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about you, a fun fact or anything else that you'd like for our listeners to hear?
I feel like I am such an open book. And, I think first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on this. I truly adore you and, have been blessed to have you in my life as a leader, as an influence, if you will. So I think that this is I think I'm an open book. Everybody knows me. So I don't think there's anything that I can say other than, I'm just me. So
yeah. I do. So if you wouldn't mind, because today is all about you, but I do think it's important for people to hear, the ones who don't know you, about two really important people that you're connected to from a family perspective that have also been instrumental in leading the industry through their service at the National Apartment Association. So could you tell everyone a little bit about your dad and your husband for a moment?
Yes, absolutely. So I have been very fortunate, y'all. And like I said, I'm an open book. Everybody kind of knows me. I grew up in the industry. My father, Tony Pusateri, was a former chairman of the board for the National Apartment Association way back in 1992. But he was a huge influence on the NAAEI, the National Apartment Association Education Institute, and helping build out all of the designations. He was that go-to guy that kind of ran behind the scenes in a lot of cases to put things together, to fix things, and really leverage relationships, leverage connections to get some things done and really help advance the industry as a whole. I was very fortunate to meet a man in the industry, Kirk Downey, and he has done much of the same. I am truly blessed in having both gentlemen in my lives to help kind of watch them, do their own thing in this industry, have their own influence on everything. Kirk is my husband. He has a consulting company in the industry. He helps suppliers. He helps owner operators find different products and services, helps them navigate the nuances of this industry, whether it's on the supplier side or the owner side, because we all know this industry is full of different nooks and crannies and fee managers to affordable to to BTR and SFR and all of these new things out there. And it's great to have somebody by my side that understands the industry and really truly has the same passion that I do for the apartment industry as a whole.
Awesome. Thanks, Angie. And if I'm not mistaken, I think your dad was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then, yes.
So yeah, awesome. He was. Yeah, he was in the Hall of Fame. He was also an ACE Award winner. Growing up in the industry, I got to see him win a lot of these awards. So for me to kind of walk in his footsteps, has been a tremendous honor. But as Kirk will tell you, I have made my own legacy. I have made my own way. So that has been a tremendous honor as well, because I kind of have aunts and uncles in the industry, if you will. I know a lot of leaders. A lot of them are retiring now, but have had deep connections with this industry for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So I think it's super special that you really are a legacy, but I agree with you 100%. You absolutely have made your own way. But your family has done so much to, elevate this industry. And so it's such an honor to have you. So let's dive in to my question. So the first thing that I want to talk about today is transformational leadership. And you've been in multiple positions in the industry, both on the owner-operator side, the supplier partner side, and in volunteer leadership positions at NAA. And your leadership, in this 3 decades, really, that you've been serving the industry has inspired teams to push beyond their perceived limits. What personal philosophy or experience has shaped your ability to lead in this way?
Wow. There are so many things, I think, that allow me to be a transformative leader. I believe that, I have the insight. I have a creative background. I graduated with a studio arts degree. So my little creative brain, I break a project down. I break a process down. I break a situation down into squares and circles and, squares and circles and triangles and all that. And then I try to put it all back together again, understanding what each individual part has to do with a process or an event or a situation. So I think for me, it's just having the vision to look beyond what the task is or what the role is, to figure out what is best for the company, what is best for the person who's either working on this or somebody who is executing it. What is really best for that opportunity.
Have you, just out of curiosity, have you done your DISC assessment or Clifton Strengths?
Oh my goodness. Many, many times. I haven't done them recently. I did them many, many years ago. I was at a different stage in my life. I was at a different leadership level, if you will, because as you mature, those things change somewhat. And so I think I've probably had a shift, a dramatic shift, if you will. And I would probably just need to take it and figure it out. What am I today?
That's what I do. But the reason I ask that, and we'll talk separately, we can have a little fun doing it. But the reason I ask is because what you were just talking about sounds like you're an arranger, maybe an arranger and a maximizer, which is such a great skill to have,
Sure.
as you're leading teams and trying to figure out all of the puzzle pieces and what fits where. But I'd be really curious to know that. So we'll figure that out.
We'll have to
later on.
explore that for sure.
Yes, we will.
I think, a lot for me, Stephanie, really is, being in a leadership role at a company, supplier company or otherwise, being a volunteer leader, or rather being in a situation where, maybe you don't have direct reports. Today in my role as a national account manager, I don't have direct reports. So for me, leadership is really cultivating and communication and working with people to really understand their skill set and where they want to go and what they want to do. I consider it more of an impact player, somebody who can jump in, somebody who has been in a leadership role, somebody who can, jump in or pull back when it's necessary, whatever the project is or whatever the event is, or whatever the situation happens to be. So I tend to look at myself more as an impact player within organizations today, rather than, a direct leader or a leader of a team, because of my emotional intelligence, if you will, the ability to kind of understand what's happening with people, or understanding where their skill set is and how we can get more out of them. That's kind of my role today because of my experience and my background and the things that I've done in my career.
I love that so much. So I interviewed Marcy French last week, and her role has also changed. So she is a VP of asset management, but she no longer has direct reports. And so she said something similar. She said, I'm a different kind of leader because I don't have direct reports, but I'm so glad that she brought that up. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I want to reiterate something. So, when I left the corporate world and multifamily and started my own consulting, speaking, and coaching business, I aligned myself with Maxwell Leadership. And so, I'm certified through them, and I'm part of the mentorship program and get my own training. I believe every coach needs a coach, right?
Yeah.
So John Maxwell, my mentor and friend, he's written over 91 books, and there's so many good ones, too many to mention. But if people are interested, let me know and I'll tell you my top 10.
Yeah.
But one in particular is called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And John, I'm going to be talking about this on the MRO podcast at Apartmentalize with Michelle Childers. We're talking about leadership and influence.
Yeah.
But when John talks about the 5 levels of leadership, the actual lowest level of leadership is positional leadership. When people follow you because they have to, because of your title, your position, or because they report to you.
Sure.
And the highest level of leadership, it's all about influence, right? Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, is something that John says that I repeat all the time. And so I loved that you spoke about that, because if you think about your role today at CORT and also the roles that you've had as a volunteer leader in the industry, the skills that it takes to be a leader of influence when people don't have to follow you, but they choose to follow you, are so incredibly important. And I think that leaders who do have direct reports can learn a lot from leaders who don't, because you really have to elevate your sphere of influence and how you get things done through people. And it all boils down to relationships. Relationships are how you influence. You can either influence positively or the opposite. And so I love that you brought that up, because I think it's really important for our listeners to kind of take that in and let that sink in a little bit.
Yeah, volunteer leadership. My dad always talked about in some of the stuff that he did from a leadership perspective. He, built a leadership academy, if you will, at his last management company at Equity Residential. He had trainers, and they talked about the Myers-Briggs and the different layers of leadership. And volunteer leadership is a little bit different, because those people don't work for you. Same thing with the consulting business. I know Kirk talked about that in his seminar as well. You don't have direct reports that direct that you have impact on or can tell them what to do, but by giving them the tools that they need or the information they need to make the right decisions for a sale or for a process or for an event or for a task is important that you have that insight and can share it.
Absolutely. And I actually think that consultants can actually move the needle more in many cases than the internal team, because you are on the outside looking in. And so while you can understand the specifics and the intricacies and the details are in your role, you understand the different teams. You're almost unbiased in a way. So you can give more objective feedback based on your purview. And people also tend to get less territorial about who moved my cheese, if you will. So,
oh no, you're so very right. So, so very right in that. And
love this conversation.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
So you mentioned a moment ago how important emotional intelligence was in your role. And so my next question is exactly about that. And I'm so glad that we are, as an industry, but also just in business in general, we've been talking more about emotional intelligence and the importance of it in the workplace over the last 10 or so years. Years ago, we didn't talk about it. And it was actually, work life and home life need to be separate, keep that at home. And now we're looking at people as holistic human beings, which I think helps immensely. So when you talk about emotional intelligence and think about it, how has EQ or EI played a role in your success as a leader? And what advice would you give to our listeners who are looking to strengthen this skill?
Oh my gosh. For me, it's always been about people. And it's always been about doing the right thing for people. And when it comes to emotional intelligence, you do have to have empathy. You have to have some strengths and direction and other things to really understand a person. Because if you don't understand the person that you're working with or working for, or understand the different things that influence them or maybe impact them. I have been through the loss of my father in this industry, and that, everybody knew about it. My emotional IQ, if you will, or emotional intelligence when it came to leadership, I had so many people reach out to me and lift me up. I looked for other resources in that. But I think the biggest piece to this really is understanding people. If you we talk so much about business data today. We talk about business analytics today, about AI today, but the human factor in all of that is really what makes a business successful, what can make a salesperson successful. It's not how many calls, how many calls you make and how many calls you make in. And property management folks, it's not about all those emails that we're sending you either. Salespeople, not all those emails that you're sending. They don't make that big of an impact. It's really about who that person is, having empathy for that person, understanding that person's strengths, what makes them, sing and dance and giggle and have fun and really get the work done. And I think that's really the biggest key when it comes to emotional intelligence, is really understanding how that person lives and works and performs and what makes them kind of sing and dance or get their job done.
100%. And I want to talk about email marketing for a moment, because we're getting a ton of it since we're getting ready to go to apartmentalize. And, I actually don't do a ton of email marketing for my business, because my preference is to build relationships and I'm in it for the long game. Now, with that said, one of my coaches has kind of not necessarily scolded me, but kind of scolded me and said, you really need to focus more on email marketing and all this. But here's why I don't do a ton of it. I do it for like live to lead, a specific event, whatever, right?
Sure.
But I don't do a ton of it because I am inundated with sales type emails, and I either delete them or they go unread, or some people will send multiple over a short period of time. And then what I may have potentially been interested in, I'm no longer interested in because you are spamming my inbox.
Yep.
Or the fun ones that I've started to get over the last 2 weeks are, emails from people trying to sell their product or service or schedule an appointment, but I am not their
Target audience.
I'm a consultant and a speaker, and it's clearly not personalized to me. They clearly know nothing about me. The wording is they're trying to be super friendly, like they know me, like, hey, how's it going? But they don't know me, because if they did, they wouldn't be trying to sell me something that is clearly for someone who owns a community. And so to your point, business is relational. And I'm not slamming email marketing. It definitely has its purpose, and marketing is so important, but you can't just set it and forget it. You have to combine it with knowing who your customer is. And, there's another speaker / consultant in the industry who posts stuff on LinkedIn all the time. And she, shops communities. And then she kind of tells us what she finds out with follow-up and et cetera. And her experience is very much the same. She's getting follow-up that's really not addressed to her. They didn't remember anything about her. They didn't even know if she'd shown up or not. And it ends up hurting you in the long run. So you're paying all this money for marketing. You're making all this effort to send it. And what you're doing is actually the end result is the opposite of your goal, which is to connect and get people interested, and you're actually pushing them away. So that could be a whole hour-long conversation.
Easily, because it is a delicate balance. I'm in account management. I have some pretty big accounts that I'm dealing with at CORT Furniture. And our business is very relational. You guys know a lot of CORT reps across the country, regional managers, territory sales managers. Our teams are incredible. They stay connected to people. But it is a delicate balance between in-person visiting the properties or emails, or, hey, let's talk a little bit about, let's remind you about CORT. And then even from a new sales perspective, a new logo perspective, if you will, trying to get new sales, trying to get those relationships, trying to get those introductions, if you will. And, we're talking a lot about leadership and a lot about networking. And it really, truly is, the key here is really leveraging your relationships, or leveraging your connections for those introductions. Hey, Steph, do you know so-and-so at such and such company? Can I get an introduction when you are, when we're together at NAA in a couple weeks? Or, hey, Kirk, do you know so-and-so? Or, whomever it is, just asking for those, because we all have different connections at different levels and different areas. And especially as a volunteer leader, my expanse of people that I know is literally coast to coast, because my focus has been so much of NAA. I have connections in a lot of different cities. And so, and a lot of different levels within organizations, and understanding that and leveraging those connections to get that peer-to-peer introduction when it comes to sales opportunities, or sales, inquiries, or even account management situations. Hey, I don't know this person at this company as well as I know this person at this company in Tampa. Can you give me an introduction to somebody? I think those are more warmly received than the cold calls, or, a cold email, if you will.
100%. And if you or Kirk or, I also, as you know, are connected across the country at different levels and different companies and supplier partners, operators, et cetera. But if someone that I know, like, and trust, that's what it's all about. If someone I know, like, and trust reached out to me and said, hey, Stephanie, I want to connect you with this person. Would you mind, hopping on a call with them, or giving them, 15 or 30 minutes of your time? What am I going to say? Absolutely. Why? Because I know, like, and trust you. I'm going to do you a favor. And because you made that introduction, I'm absolutely going to make the time. Even if they want to talk to me about something that maybe wasn't even on my radar, I'm going to do that as a favor to you, my friend. And then I make a new connection. I make a new relationship. And even if I'm not, let's say, looking for that today, now that seed has been planted.
Sure.
And if it doesn't work for me today, it could work for me in the future. Or now I know you and I'm all about connections. And so when I meet people, I'm like, oh my gosh, you need this. You need to talk to so-and-so. I just had a conversation with them. And that's how you organically make it work with emotional intelligence, right? And, there's that saying that I think many of us have heard, but everyone likes to buy. No one likes to be sold to. Everyone likes to buy. No one likes to be sold to.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to feel like a used car salesman, but if you can do something to make my life better and I know, like, and trust you, chances are you're going to get my business over the next person. So,
well, and it's interesting that you said it absolutely is.
No, keep going.
No, please, I was just going to say, when I was a trainer in property management, that was one of the things we talked about. You can't sell somebody a one bedroom apartment when they want a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor. You have to understand what they are looking for specifically. What, do you need a 1-bedroom? Do you need a 2-bedroom? Do you want to be by the pool? Do you want to be by the parking lot? Do you need a garage? You have to ask these qualifying questions in order to understand what the sale looks like. That's the same thing in the supplier side, with sales on the supplier side. That's the same thing with owner operators selling to, trying to sell their services to a new management company or to an owner looking for a new management company. You have to know what are their pain points? What are those things that are going to make that account sing and dance, as far as what are they proud of or what are they challenged with? So you can help kind of bring all of those things together from a sales perspective, an account management perspective, and again, a leadership perspective, even a volunteer leadership perspective.
Absolutely.
And raising money for PAC or raising money for, the children's home down the street. You have to know and understand those things in order to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. Well, and add value to them first without asking for something in return. So I'm doing an opening networking session at Apartmentalize on the first day on Wednesday. And we have 3 back-to-back sessions. I'm doing the first one. Karen, and I'm drawing a blank, but Karen's doing the second one. That's it. Day, look at your schedule. And then Cynthia's doing the third one. But in our session that kicks off at 1 p.m., we're giving some networking tips. And my biggest tip is when you're meeting people, do not immediately go in asking them for something for you. Make that connection and think about what value you can add to them, whether it's another connection, whether it's a tip, whether it's a freebie, whatever it is. How can you add value to that person that you're meeting? That will pay off in the long run.
Absolutely.
The last thing I'll mention, because I'm kind of going off topic, but I think it is important for our listeners. The last thing I'll mention, since we're talking about emails and connections and things feeling spammy. Okay, LinkedIn. I must get 10 to 20 requests a day. The majority of those are salesy spam. Please do not salesy spam me, because you're not going to get a response from me. And you're especially not going to get a response if it's on LinkedIn or via email. If I haven't responded and now you're stalking me 10 times, it's not going to happen. Thank you very much. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not working. There's a reason I'm not responding. Your approach is ineffective.
Well, but that goes back to knowing your target audience.
Exactly.
You have to know who your target audience is. And, I've had similar situations, with that. I have reached out to suppliers and said, look, I don't know if your AI is doing this. I don't know if your marketing department is doing this, but guess what? I work for CORT Furniture. I am an account manager. I do not own a property. I do not own a portfolio. I cannot help you with this. So please remove me from your list. And, I think that, you got to know who your target audience is, regardless, what kind of level of company that you work for. You got to understand who you're selling into.
Absolutely. And you want that list to be accurate, because otherwise you're wasting, time. So great conversation. We'll do a follow-up on that and do some sort of, what are the best ways to connect with your customer and how do you really get to the sale? Okay. So my next question is also about transformational leadership. So looking back on your career, Angie, Can you share a moment with our listeners of when you recognized that your leadership had truly transformed a team or an individual's career path?
Wow. That is interesting that you bring this question up, because recently, working for CORT has been a tremendous honor and a tremendous opportunity for me, to connect and reconnect with a lot of people that I trained back when I was in property management, and to connect with other people that I've volunteered with, and those types of things. And just recently, or really over the last year and a half or 2 years, I have had people come find me at these client conferences, at these management company conferences, at NAA, and pull me aside and tell me what an impact I had on them, how I helped shape their career, how I helped them overcome something. I am a breast cancer survivor. I am very public about that. I am very public about helping people in that situation, whether you are a support person for someone with breast cancer or you are going through breast cancer. Unfortunately, it's an unlikely sisterhood. So I have a lot of connections out there that depending on where you're at in your journey, I can probably find somebody to help you navigate that situation. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, but I am tremendously blessed in that, understanding the impact that I've had on so many women and so many people, because of that openness, because I do share, because I do have a genuine interest in people. And, to have women across the country or men across the country tell me, you've helped me with my wife, or you've helped me in my career, and I would not be an area vice president, had I not gone through some of your training classes or been mentored by you. Those are tremendous little gifts to carry forward. And those are, opportunities of influence that, even though some of those were training opportunities, Steph, when you and I worked together back in 1910, I like to say that.
Oh my gosh. Well, it wasn't that long ago. But dang, we look good if it was.
It was, 20 plus years ago. People are telling, engaging with me and telling me how I influenced their life. I had no idea. I was just doing what felt right. I was just doing what was right for that person. I was doing what was right for that specific moment or event or training, opportunity. But, for me to start hearing some of those, number one, either means I'm really old or I did a really good job. I wasn't looking for those things, when I was pouring my heart and my passion into people.
Well, I think it goes back to a lot of what you were talking about earlier, when we talked about emotional intelligence and how you also look at people as individuals and see how their unique strengths can benefit the needs of the company. And you're human. And you talked a moment ago about vulnerability, and that is the best way to really connect with people. So, I'm a DISC consultant and I leverage Clifton Strengths, but I also leverage Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. And the biggest dysfunction is lack of trust. And the best way to overcome that lack of trust is being human. Mm-hmm. And the way to get people to know, like, and trust us is to be vulnerable and be real and be human. And that it really is who you are. And that is magnetic. People need to be more like that, especially in today's world with all of the, AI and, nip and tuck and again, do whatever you want. But I mean, we've gotten to a point where there's a lot of stuff that feels inauthentic or feels disingenuous. And so I think people are hungry now more than ever for that authenticity and vulnerability and real connection. And that's why you have people coming up to you years later saying that. I mean, I've told you this before, but when you and I worked at Graystar and you were in our learning development department, and then you said, I'm leaving. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're leaving. And by the way, I want your job. And you're like, I was like, please don't leave. But if you do,
you did.
Pick me. And I think there were 100 and something people that, the
Oh my
partner was
gosh.
interviewing, and she's like, "Hey, Angie was the one who said, I should really consider you." I was like, "Yes, thank you, Angie." But you made an
Sure.
impact on my career way back then, and I'm so fortunate that we've stayed connected. But I think being vulnerable, being human, that's why you continue to make such a positive impact in the lives of others, because it really is about that human connection. And when we talk about leadership as influence, we influence by being real and being someone that people can know, like, and trust, which is 100% what you embody every
Thank
day.
you. Thank you.
All right. So now I want to pivot to leading change.
Yeah.
Speaking about change, we're going to change. So you've led several teams through change. What are some key lessons that you've learned about overcoming resistance, which is naturally going to happen? It's just part of the process,
Yeah.
and ensuring smooth transitions. How do you help people overcome that natural resistance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I talked earlier about, being an impact player and stepping up, but having the ability to step back. And I think that's when it comes to change and it comes to being uncomfortable in a role or being uncomfortable with the roles and responsibilities that you may be taking on, or maybe something's changed in that. I think if you take a step back as a leader and you provide some additional information, communication, the why is so important. Here's why we have to do this. Here's why we need to shift and make a change and go this other direction. Or here's why we need to do this. It really, truly calms people down. And it will calm a situation down because they have the background information to know why that change is being made. That is so huge in so many different instances or so many different examples that, that is really the key. And if things change because the why changes, communicate it. You have to communicate that so many times and, come back with a different plan. And don't make the plan so, so ginormous, if you will, so many steps in that plan that you don't have the flexibility to pivot and change, because life is about change. Business is about change. You may have to pivot, and, steps 10 through 30 are going to go away because, what you're doing in step number 9 has changed the whole trajectory of, whether it's, software development or it's, business development, whatever it is. You have to have that built-in time or built-in flexibility into any plan to do that. But that's, in my opinion, that's how you kind of coach people through a change or transformational situation. Just kind of helping them understand the why so they can, be comfortable stretching and learning and growing as a person, but still understanding what the directive is for the company and what the company needs from you.
Yeah, 100%. So I speak a lot about change, and I took a certificate program through the American Society of Training and Development years ago on change. And there is a predictable cycle to change, and there is an 8-step process. And you mentioned a couple of those steps, which are key, right? Which is providing the why and communicate. But what's interesting is over 75% of change efforts fail within organizations. And this is based on research done by Gallup and Pew Research. And it fails because leaders and organizations are not following the steps. And there are actual steps. There are 8 steps. There's an emotional process that every single team member is going to go through. And if we understand that, then we can predict what cycle our organization is going through and where we are in the cycle. And some team members may be in different phases, because you do have people that are just naturally a little bit more adept to change based on their personality preferences and communication styles, right? Then you've got people who are they're going to be the last adopters. They're going to be digging their heels in. You're going to have to drag them along. And then there's the middle, right? Yep. But everyone, even the early adopters, unless they were part of formulating what the change is going to be, and they feel like it's their idea, most human beings are going to resist to some degree, some more than others. And
Sure.
so if we know this and if we can predict it, then we can actually plan for it as well. And what I see happening in companies a lot is that there's this big change planned that the executive team has been talking about for months, maybe even longer, right? It's been on their radar, it's been on their agenda, but they haven't socialized it outside of their group. They haven't communicated it outside of their group. And oftentimes they feel like, well, we're not ready to communicate that because it's not happening yet. But what they fail to recognize is if they don't communicate early and often, you don't have to put the whole shebang out, but it's like marketing. A little trickle here, a little trickle there. It's coming. Hey, be on the lookout. If you fail to do that, then you're not giving the humans who it's probably impacting the most time to process this intellectually and emotionally, which we are emotionally beings that are sometimes logical, not the opposite. So if you're not giving people enough time to process, you can't then be shocked when your organization is up in arms because everyone's thinking who moved my cheese, which is a great book, oldie but a goodie. So I love that you're talking about this. And I think, our listeners, whether again, you're listening live or catch the replay, you might inherently be listening saying, well, yeah, of course, people want to know the why. That makes sense. Of course, communicate. But then I want you to take a look at some of the change initiatives maybe you've been involved in your organization. And I want you to be real honest with yourself and ask yourself, did we explain the why effectively? Was the message clear? Did we communicate enough? And, oh, by the way, did we give people an opportunity to voice their grievances, their worries, to weigh in? And as Patrick Lencioni says about change and healthy conflict, if people don't weigh in, they don't buy in. So I love everything that you were just talking about.
And it's so true because you do have to have that. I mean, like you said, the why is very obvious. If you understand the why, but if you're in a leadership role or you are a department head or you are leading a team or you are a senior member of a team and you don't understand the why and you're not able to communicate that to others that know, like, and trust you within your organization, that becomes a breakdown there because you have to be an advocate of the why. You don't have to understand it. You can challenge it. My husband is the ultimate challenger of everything. He is that guy that has to know why. And over the years, I've learned that he understands that he has to, as a person, as a emotional intelligence person, as a leader, as a human processing machine, if you will, he has to understand the why of everything. And he may, ask questions. And I have learned a lot from that over the years and asking those why kind of questions, understanding why is it that we have to do it this way? Why do we have to go that way? Why do we have to change this process? Why are we using this software? Those are those things. When you understand it, you can carry that message forward to other people to help them with the buy-in, help them with the understanding of why things are changing or why things have to go a different direction.
100%. And again, this conversation, talking about change, could be another full session.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my next question, and we talked a little bit about this, but as a leader, how do you balance creating stability for your team, which they need emotionally, right? While also embracing disruption as an opportunity for growth?
Whew, that's a big one. I think you have to be an active listener. I think some people think that I think of myself as a quiet leader. I prefer to be in the background. I don't prefer to be out and about. I prefer to kind of understand and navigate those channels behind the scenes. But when I think about that, I think that you have to listen. You have to observe. You have to be quiet and absorb. We're so used to Amazon Easy. We're so instant information, instant this, instant that, instant, everything. I think to be more transformative, you have to to just sit with it for just a minute and process it and listen. Listen to your team, listen to the direction, to understand what's got to have to happen, because our brain can think really quickly and processes move really quickly, and AI, everything is instantaneous, but sometimes you just need to sit with it for a moment and just kind of understand, how is this going to impact people? How is this going to impact the process? How is this going to impact the business? How is this going to impact the results? Are my clients going to like it? Are my clients not going to like it? Is this something they are going to absorb, or is this something that they're going to be impacted by? I think you, as a leader, a transformative leader, you really have to have that opportunity to just sit with it for a moment. Just like with a plan, you've got to have some time for flexibility, time to pivot. But I think we're all just moving so quickly today, and we're moving so fast today, that I think a lot of times decisions can be made very quickly on inaccurate information or disinformation, or maybe not enough information. And I think that is more impactful to a business than having that pause for quiet, having that pause for the opportunity to listen, to absorb, and then to put a plan forward.
I love that so much. Sitting with the plan sometimes before forging ahead. And you mentioned pause, and it's called the power of the pause, right? I love the power of the pause, whether it's in strategic thinking for your business or for your life, or trying to choose whether or not you're going to react to a trigger, react to something, or pause, sit back, and think about how you might want to respond versus react. The power of the pause. I love that so much, Angie. So I just got an alert. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got an alert from StreamYard that LinkedIn, we're having trouble streaming to LinkedIn. This may be an issue on LinkedIn's end. We'll keep trying and let you know if it's resolved. Please check LinkedIn to ensure the stream is okay. If this continues for a while, try creating a new live stream or remove this destination and then re-add it. So I'm going to just check this on LinkedIn for a moment. So I'm going to click this link. I'm still with you.
Okay.
So if it could be working, and maybe it's just the back end here, but I'm checking to see. Okay. Well, I see it. So I'm not going to end it, and we'll just hope that StreamYard is just having a little glitch with LinkedIn, and we're not going to end it. We're going to leave it. And then worst case scenario, if for some reason the full stream doesn't post accurately, I have it on here, and then we can repost. So for listeners, if you are on LinkedIn and it's glitchy or there are issues, we will be posting the replay later, but you can also find us on Facebook. And you can find us on YouTube right now live to listen to the rest of this great interview with Angie. So go to YouTube, Stephanie Puryear-Helling, or Facebook, Stephanie Puryear-Helling, and you'll see me and Angi Pusateri live. Or, you know, if you don't want to mess around with that, look for the replay on LinkedIn, or just stick with us, and hopefully the glitches will work themselves out. Okay. Speaking of the power of the pause,
we're going to pivot here.
Pause and pivot. Yeah. So that's what we did. Hold, please. Okay. So great input. So my next question, Angie, is a little bit about diversity. And so you and I both know that organizations tend to thrive when they embrace diverse perspectives. How have you seen inclusive leadership contribute to successful transformations in companies and within the industry?
Yeah, great question. I think that there's a lot to be said for the apartment industry as a whole. I think that we are a very diverse group of passionate people who believe in providing homes for people. We as an organization, or we as an industry, have to come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and education levels and degrees and no degrees. And I think everything. I think this industry is very diverse overall. I think that, you know, there have been some struggles, you know, with a few things across the board, but I think that we as an industry have come together. And we recognize these things, women in leadership, you know, female service techs, things like that. I think that is an anomaly. I think it's normal these days that there are females in leadership. There are males in leadership. There are people of color in leadership roles. And I applaud this industry for working so hard, for folks like Alex Jackie and Cindy Clare and Rhonda Purrier for being the champions of those things for this industry. I think they brought to light a lot of really great things and a few things that may have been, not so good, but we've worked through them and we have adjusted and we have grown tremendously into a stronger industry working together. I mean, I think that's my answer. I mean, I think I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. I think that, if you treat people and with respect, with dignity and respect, I think that there's no issue.
Yeah, 100%. And I have seen changes, over the last 15 years since I've been involved in the National Apartment Association. And it's really inspiring to see. And those changes continue to happen and we continue to evolve and we continue to be, in my opinion, open-minded to welcome more and more diverse perspectives with, the DE&I committee at NAA that Cindy Clare actually, helped form years ago. And the Next Gen, right? And now there's several organizations that have tables or booths at Apartmentalize celebrating diversity, right? And giving people an opportunity to feel like they belong somewhere. And so I see that more and more, and that's very encouraging because having diverse perspectives is how we get the best decisions, right? I don't want a bunch of Stephanies. Please, God, no, right? I
don't want a bunch of me's either.
I need people who, look different, act different, have different backgrounds, different experiences, different perspectives. Because that's how we get the best decision, is when people bring me ideas that I may not have thought of because I don't have that viewpoint, and now I'm learning. And collectively together, we can make a better decision when we bring it all to the table, right? So I did see just a little glitch right now. Did you see that on the screen?
I did see it. But I think, Steph, it goes back to about what we started talking about, and it is about the people. It is about the people that you're working with and appreciating and understanding who they are, where they come from, their backgrounds, giving them that opportunity to shine. And, when you have those kind of perspectives of the people that you work with or the people you volunteer with, the people you live with, there's leaders in every shape, every dynamic, whether it's your church or your social club or your kids' soccer or, working, volunteering in the apartment association. There's different levels of leadership. And I have just been a firm believer of, if you appreciate that human being as an individual human being for their own unique talents and their own, then, it makes things much easier.
Absolutely. All right. So our last set of questions is about resiliency. I'm going to talk I know it's already been like almost an hour, which is crazy. Great conversation. So I want to talk to you a little bit about resiliency, building resilient teams, and your personal resilience as a leader. How have you cultivated resilience within the various teams that you've led or worked with? And what strategies have been most effective in keeping morale strong during challenging times?
So let's talk about that word resilience, Stephanie. Tell me what you mean by that word. Resilience.
Well, the ability to sometimes bounce back, right? Or sometimes weather the difficult challenges that you face in a situation, in a circumstance in life, right? Things that seem hard or sometimes overwhelming or insurmountable. It's the ability to bend like a tree, if you will. And you might be beaten up and weathered, and you bend, but you don't break. That's my definition of resilience.
No, you know what? I love it. And it is, I'll take it back to, when we started this conversation, when it comes to a difficult challenge and it comes to something insurmountable, something you just can't wrap your brain around, I think if you take a step back, and we've talked a lot about the pause, and you just sit with it for a minute, and you just understand it, and you really look at it, you can, your team, just talk about it, do your grievances, and then take a pause, and then go back to them and say, team, are those things really are those really those things that are going to hold us back from what we need to achieve? Are those things, something you can't work past? And if, I think a lot of times if you just sit with it for a minute too, as a group, then you have that opportunity to kind of shine the light on it, to say, oh, you know what? That impacts me because I don't really understand it, but it doesn't impact her or him. So let's hear what you have to say about that particular situation. I really think that pause is one of those things that can help you and your team be resilient. When I lost my father, and it might make me cry. It was insurmountable to think that I would be in this industry without him, that I would not, he was my mentor. He was my best friend. It was insurmountable to me that I would be able to move on without him. We sat at NAAs, any of the National Apartment Association stuff, we would go to breakfast. We would have a recap of what I had done or what he had done or who he had talked to or what he had learned, those types of things. I think if you just take it, one little thing at a time, and really celebrate those accomplishments and celebrate those little wins to get to that bigger win, I think that also will help your team in any situation, whether it's a changing of a goal, or maybe it's revenue that you're looking at, revenue projections. You've got to celebrate the little things, because you just can't win. You've got to prepare a little bit at a time to get to that big win. Athletes do it. They train, and then they have the opportunity to win. In business, we do the same thing. We build upon our skill set. We build those conversations. We send out the proposals. We get to the challenger sale as a huge piece of something that I have learned, and the challenger customer, and understanding the different perspectives of the different people there. But I think that resiliency is that win. How many little wins can you get to equal to that big win? And that really, for me, is how I would coach my team if I had a team today. On the challenges of today's business world. Let's celebrate the little things that are going to equal that one big thing that we're going to get to that ultimate goal, that marathon, that dollar amount for the, PAC contributions, or, attendance, or whatever it is. I think we've got to celebrate those little goals to get to the bigger goal.
Absolutely. I love that input. And, I want to talk to you a little bit more about, your personal resilience. And thank you for sharing with me and with our listeners, about your dad. And that was such a difficult time, right? And it did feel insurmountable. Like, how am I going to get through this, right? So when you think about not just personal situations like that, but if you want to speak more to that, please do. But also the pressures that come with leadership. For you personally, Angie, how do you maintain resilience and prevent burnout? And if you want to share with our listeners a little bit more how you got through, losing your father, feel free. Sure. But if you're like, I don't want to cry, then you don't have to. Talk a little bit about the resilience when it comes to the pressure and stress of just the workplace. And then also, if you want to talk about personally how you've gotten through some of those things, that would be great.
Yeah, I think
sorry to interrupt, but you're also a cancer survivor, as you mentioned. And so going through, huge life changes, the loss of a parent that you're super close to, and then, going through cancer. Those are two huge life changes that can make us want to curl up in the fetal position. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I think resilience in the workplace and avoiding burnout. I'm a workaholic. People will tell you, my husband will tell you, I am in it for the people. I am in it to take care of clients. Sometimes I have to walk away from the computer and I have to just take a break. And my boss, Pete Regulus, is the best at that. He's like, don't work until 8:00 tonight, or do work until 8:00 tonight, but tomorrow night, leave at 5:00, or, whatever. But I really think that it is taking a little bit of time for self-care, taking that opportunity. The situation with my dad, I obviously had to take I took a lot of self-care there. When it comes to business, self-care, it is a business. Your family is your lifeline. Your family, or can be your business too, but your family should always take first priority. Your health should always take first priority. Stress can do some really, really crazy things to your body, to your hair, to your physique. You can gain weight, you can lose weight. I mean, there's a lot of different things. And stress, you have to find those things that are going to make you happy, whether it's taking a pause, taking a break, walking away from your computer for 10 or 15 minutes, taking a 30-minute lunch, or I am going to be real here, a 10-minute power nap in the middle of the afternoon, and I will take a 10-minute power nap for myself and for my sanity's sake, because my brain is going a million miles an hour and I've got to take that little break. I just close my eyes, I set my alarm, I take a break, I walk away, then I can refocus on what the priorities. My dad was notorious for telling me not to get stuck in the weeds. I'm that, like I said at the beginning, I'm that artist. I'm breaking everything down into circles and squares and triangles and rectangles and trying to put it all back together, either better or the same way. And my thing sometimes gets hung up on, well, that triangle is not the same size and that, square is not the same size. So I have to take a break. I have to walk away from my computer. I have to go stand outside, look at my beautiful yard, the pond, the alligators, play with my granddaughter, whatever it is, to give myself a little reprieve, to be kind to myself. And, after going through that with my dad and breast cancer, especially, I had to focus my time and my attention to take care of me. I'm the only person that can advocate for me. I'm the only person that can change what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, how I'm reacting to things. And you have to take some pause in your life, take some time to sit with it, be quiet, go hiking, go skydiving, whatever your thing is, to give yourself a little bit of love and time and attention.
I love that so much. And it is important. I was talking to Marcus Wilson on the podcast last week, and he said, he actually went through burnout, right? He's like, I experienced burnout big time. And so part of what I'm sharing with the listeners is lessons that I learned the hard way, right? Yep. Because I didn't give myself time to pause. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was burning the midnight oil and burning the candle at both ends, and a workaholic and all of that. And anyone listening who, like me, is a recovering perfectionist or achiever, like Angi Achiever, you're probably going, yep, been there, done that. But as you mentioned, Angi, it can impact our health, both our physical health, our mental health, our relationships, our sleep cycle, all the things. And, I used, and I still do, okay? I still do burn the midnight oil often. But I now recognize when I then need to give myself a break. And so I loved what you said about the 10-minute power nap or walking outside, whatever it is, if you're listening to this, whatever it is for you that allows you to decompress and gives you that additional energy and self-care, make your list of top 10 things that would help you calm
Yep.
and help you breathe deeply, whatever it is. Some of you are into
Well,
meditation, some of you are into journaling, some
yep.
of you are into music. Whatever it is for you, you need to make your list, your top 10 list,
Yep.
and then actually schedule time for yourself, just like you schedule your Zoom meetings or your business meetings
Yep.
or your airline, airline reservations. You need to have time on your calendar that's only for you. But I'll make a recommendation. Once you put that time on your calendar for you, don't volunteer it away to someone else, because if you're a recovering
So
perfectionist,
important.
you're likely a people pleaser
Yep.
too, which
Yep.
means that you're like, well, I meant it for that's really for me, but I'm going to
Yep.
give it to someone else. Well,
Yep.
that's how you got into either close to burnout or burnout to begin with.
Yep.
So
And
like they say on the airplane, you have to put on your mask first before you can put it on someone else, right? Go ahead, Angie.
Exactly. I was just going to say, you and Marcy talked about this in your other podcast, and it's, multitasking. If you're not taking the best care of yourself and paying attention to that person in front of you, then that is a lost opportunity to take care of yourself or take care of somebody else. And a lot of times, like, our granddaughter is at our house a couple times a week, and we got to spend time with her. She's 3, y'all. She's amazing.
Oh,
And
I think I heard her earlier.
Probably,
awesome.
for sure. And she, it's just amazing to number one, see that perspective. But what she's done for me is, I will walk away from the computer or come back from a conference, and she's here, and I'm like, oh, she's here. And then I'm like, oh, but she's here, and I get to spend time with her, and I get to be a kid again, and I get to look at things differently. And for me, that is, a little bit of self-care as well, because that, like, gets me away. That gets my little head going in the right direction, and gives me a little break from, all of the different stuff that we're doing. But, overall, I think, leadership, whether it's at home or at work, or you're leading a team, or you've got you're impacting somebody, you can't be your best self unless you take care of yourself first. You can't lead a team successfully without taking care of yourself, understanding the why, understanding, why you got to take care of yourself. Is it for my hair? Is it for my eyes? Is it, what is happening here? But you really just have to take the time so you don't get into burnout. And, being in a burnout situation, I've been there, I've done that. It's a terrible place to be, and I don't ever want to be there again. And
No.
You do really have to schedule that time, Steph. That's great advice. Schedule time for yourself, schedule time for a decompression, to make sure that your mental health is as good, is in a good place, so you can be a productive member of your leadership team, or your teams, or society, or whatever. And know that there are people out there. The other piece to this is your network of friends. I have an amazing group of female friends out of Texas that, and female friends here in Florida that, they are my go-tos. They are my ride or dies, if you will. And if I'm having a terrible day, I will text them and say, I need a chat. I need 10 minutes. Please, can we chat? You just reach out to your friends, have those networks, have those safe groups that you can go and you can be a dork. I've got groups that I can be a dork with, and I love it because, I'm a unibrain. I have an analytical brain, but I have a creative brain. So, I need that creative outlet for those opportunities.
100%. And I'm very similar. So, like, out of my top 10 strengths, 6 are in the strategic domain. So I am very analytical, but then I also have this outgoing people side, and I need fun, and I need to let my hair down, and I need to be silly, or too much seriousness for me over a long period of time is not healthy for me.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So if you're, again, like me, a recovering perfectionist, or like Angie and I maybe have experienced burnout previously, make sure you schedule time for yourself, but also don't feel guilty about it. You should feel guilty if you're not doing self-care. I'm just kidding. I don't want you to feel guilty at all. Please don't. Okay. Give yourself some grace.
You can't be your best self if you don't take time for yourself. You cannot be your best self, period.
Okay. So I have 2 more questions.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
I know. My last one is about women in leadership. And you mentioned this earlier and mentioned, 3 of the 4 women chairs of the National Apartment Association. But women in leadership sometimes face additional expectations or pressures. How have you built resilience in the face of these challenges?
That's a great question. And I think that I have a different perspective of it because I grew up in the apartment industry and because I was around so many leaders, male and female. I haven't really encountered those kinds of situations in the leadership opportunities that I've had. My dad always taught me that people have different perspectives, and people who may be your boss, maybe opposite sex and your boss, may, even the same sex and your boss, just have different experience than you. They have more experience than you, and you shouldn't be intimidated, and you shouldn't be impacted by that. So I think I've been blind by it or blinded to it because I just don't see it, and I haven't encountered it in any of the roles or positions that I've been in. So for me, it's just, understanding again, what is the role, what is the event, what is the expectation, and do the absolute best that you can do with what you've got. And if there is something that is inhibiting your progress because of one of those things, then you need to take it to the HR department, or you need to take it, have a group of friends that you can talk to, your safe group, to help you navigate those things or help you grow those things. Those opportunities that you want to go along with. But I personally have been, pretty happy with where I've gone, the success that I've had, the directions I've gone, the growth that I've had over the years, and the opportunities that I have been have earned and have been given. So I know that's probably not the best political answer, but
no, I think it's great, Angie. And here's why. So, I asked Rhonda Puryear this question when I had her on. I asked Cindy Clare this question, and Cindy, Rhonda, and Alex have gone and spoken on panels about women in leadership, and Alex will be on next week. So I'm so looking forward to that. But similarly, when Rhonda and Cindy addressed this topic, they both pointed back to me, like the person in the mirror, right? So it doesn't, and even Marcy, when we were talking about last week, it doesn't mean that people that we interact with won't necessarily, some do have biases. Some do have maybe a hard time with you as a woman because you're in a role that's unique for women.
Sure.
Like you mentioned, female maintenance technicians, right? Yep. Or maybe you're one of the few women, or the only woman at the board table, right? Mm-hmm. Or in the meeting, or whatever the case may be. Sure. And so I'm not in any way, shape, or form diminishing or minimizing that, particularly for those of you listening who've had an experience where you feel like because you're a woman, you haven't been given this opportunity or allowed to do this. But I think what I see, what I heard from you, and what I see in people like you, Cindy, Rhonda, Alex, Susan Sherfield, who I had on, Marcy, Monica, I'm not listing all the names, so I apologize. Myself, I think the one element that we have in common is we're not going to let that stop us, right? Like you can have your viewpoint, you can maybe have an objection, or it may be challenging, but we're like, okay, well, that's a challenge. So that's a challenge.
Sure.
I'm still going to share I'm going to try to build a better relationship with you. I'm going to try to influence. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I'm going to try to build a relationship to see how I can overcome that challenge and how I can have more of a voice if that's what I feel is needed, or more of a seat at the table if that's what I feel is needed. So
sure. And I think that a lot of my
comment there, my recommendation is for listeners, like if you're a woman who's like, oh, but that feels uncomfortable and they don't like me, or they're not letting me, But to me, and again, I'm not minimizing that that's happening, but then you have a choice. You can let that defeat you, or you can do something about it. And I'm encouraging the women listening specifically, do something about it and speak up and don't give up. Sorry, Angie, go ahead.
No, and I was going to say the same thing because, when I initially came into the industry, I under a married name. I was not Angi Pusateri. And I did that specifically because I didn't want people in the apartment industry, my employer didn't know who my dad was until the job. And I had gone through the interviews and gone through all the training and all of that. But it's interesting to see the perspective because, I'm not that type of person that wants stuff just handed to me. I want to earn it. I want to be, I don't want a board position because I'm Tony's daughter. I want to put the work in. And I really think that, that's really what has shaped my perspective, is because I have had to fight to say, I am Tony's daughter, but I am my own person. I am my own leader. I have built my own legacy. I'm doing things differently than he did. He gave me the introductions, yes. But I have had to fight for the positions that I've had. I've had to work hard to prove that I can do this. I don't want to just be given something. And so I think that's really what shaped my personality and my mentality when it comes to those kinds of things, because I have worked. I didn't want to be given anything in those circumstances. I didn't want to be hired because I was Tony's daughter. I'm totally different than dad. I'm totally different than my mom when it comes to art as well. I mean, we're all different human beings. We're all unique human beings. So, I've always made it a priority of mine to make sure that people know that I am my own person. I am goofy and crazy and, all of those things, and a good businesswoman because I can think that way. So for me, not to, like you said, Steph, not to diminish, those challenges that other people have had, but that is just not my experience.
Yeah. And I think, again, we can shape our own experience by honestly not buying into a particular story, right? Sure. And so we can choose, do I want to believe that story that they're saying, or do I want to create my own story and path?
It's your actions. It's your words and 100%. Your actions have to match. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So
yeah, and it's a mindset thing. Okay, so we are over time, but I have loved this conversation. I do have, just as we leave our listeners, when I originally started this Spotlight series specifically with people in leadership from the multifamily space, I was doing it to gear up for Residential Property Management Week. And I'm continuing it. But for our listeners who maybe they're newer in the industry, or maybe they're not in multifamily real estate and they're interested in learning more, what key advice would you offer to those looking to become more successful in this space?
If you are new to the industry and you've just jumped in, explore your different options in property management. I am a firm believer that your skill set can be applied to a job in the industry, whether it's on the owner operator side or the supplier side. You like graphics, you like marketing. There are a variety of different marketing positions available. You love to do things with your hands. There's maintenance opportunities, technical, opportunities in property management, supplier side. So there's a different skill sets that can be applied to a variety of jobs in this. I can't even begin to stress that. It is your skill set, your teamwork, your ability to see things creatively, for fine arts, in studio art. So I'm a three-dimensional person. I love to paint and weave and sculpt. And that skill set got me into a marketing position, which got me into a regional marketing and training position, which got me into a sales position on this on the supplier side, because I can talk and I can teamwork. And I was a soccer player, so teamwork to me is super important. Collaboration. Everybody's got a skill set that can be a winning combination on a team. Those that are currently in, just explore your opportunities, look at your skill sets and see what you're passionate about, see what fits and feels good to what you are capable of, or the direction you want to learn. If you already are in the industry and you are just beginning and you are just seeing this enormous opportunity in front of you, get to know your supplier partners, get to know your association executives. Go to the apartment industry, go to apartment association events, and get to meet people that are in your same role. Or in your same city. I had the opportunity to grow up in the DFW market at the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas. I have some tremendous friendships from being at that apartment association, from learning, taking courses at that association, from networking marketing group, from working on special projects with that group. So get involved, get active. Don't just sit on the sidelines, but find your passion and apply that to what is going on at that apartment association or at that state level association to really amplify what your success will be, or what your influence will be, your impact will be.
Excellent. Great advice, Angie. So we've gone a little long, but I've absolutely loved this conversation and appreciate the additional discussion that we've had. Thank you for lending your time, your talents, and your expertise to our listeners.
Of course.
For those of you either listening live or catching the replay, thank you for joining the You Deserve More podcast Spotlight interview series with Angi Pusateri. Bye for now.
Bye, y'all. Thanks.